make some internet magic here. Hey, everybody. I'm Ryan Doyle. This is the Vertigo Table, and you know him, you love him, you see him already. This is the illustrious Mr. Welch. How you feeling tonight?
I am splendiferous.
Oh, good word choice.
Yeah,
If they
I'm a
don't
run.
know, if they're among the few who are not familiar with your work, where can they find you and what are you doing there?
Well, you can find me sitting in this chair most of the time.
Mhm.
I do the Mr. Welch channel. I cover Mystara, the greatest D&D fantasy setting of all time. I also talk about other RPGs because I have played a few hundred in my time. Um, and if you get really desperate, you can go over to my live journal to read the Mr. Welch list because I'm pretty much the only thing keeping that website up.
It's funny. I did that recently, and I did not know LiveJournal was still a thing. But check out the list. Links to all of this stuff in the
Yeah.
description down below. It's fun and still growing? Question mark. I mean, I know
Yes, yes.
we talked. I think I experienced one the other night, but
Uh, Let me see if you will give me a moment.
absolutely. What's the latest?
The latest
Latest edition?
is what's in him? Yeah. What is the latest? Here we go. I am having a I'm having a little bit of a problem with
I
come
put
on.
put you on the spot technologically. Give us the full title of the Mr. Welch list too, so the
Nothing I
folks.
say is meant to offend unless you're a moron. Well, that's my live journal. The most recent, yeah, the 2,619 things Mr. Welch can no longer do in a role-playing game. The last few things that were added was 2,617, just because Kryn lacks drought or orcs doesn't mean they've been fizz banned. Multiclassing between Bard and Artificer is acceptable until the 1812 Overture starts, and Golden Corral gift certificates are not legal tender in the Five Shires.
Wow. There's so yeah, it's deep. There's a like you can unpack. It's a funny bit, but
Yeah,
then like you dig into any one of those lines and like the alchemist triggering the 1812 overture. It's like, oh, this I've been at that table. Like, oh, this is a different game now. This guy showed up with a mechanical spider tank and built a cannon, and like, okay, that's cool, but
yeah, because the game before, I mean, I was like on that list. I've got on the last 10, I've got GURPS, I've got Only War, uh, Rogue Trader. I just did Rogue Trader, and when we were doing I was doing the DM roundtable. We were playing Kill Bargle or Castle
mhm.
Misdemeanor, and I'm having to play along with Wally because he's like he recruited me for this because it's all Beck me, and it's like I've run this module 100 times, and I'm having to pretend I don't know what's in the next room.
And you did a good job. I was watching you.
Yeah,
Struggles too strong of a word, but I was like, this guy's in a position right now because
yes,
you want to participate, but like we were talking about, like should we go here or there, and like you were like deeply in character, and I
yeah.
appreciated the commitment. You know, I was like, why don't we just come up with the system so we don't have to keep asking the guy who could be running this to make a decision about what door to open next.
Yeah, and it's just like like I know not to touch anything in the Harpy room. That's the best way to get a TPK is that Harpy room because everything will kill you. And it's like, well, what do you do? And it's like, you can't touch the plates. You can't, investigate anything. Everything's poisonous. And if you try to investigate, the harpies come out and try to kill you. And they're like, fortunately, I'm playing a dwarf, and the one thing we've got going for us is saving throws.
And grit and swagger.
Yeah.
Don't hate on dwarves. Oh, so tell us before we dive into questions and stuff. I think a lot of folks who are watching this are probably from a 5e background, started in the last 10, 15 years, and like don't really know much about Mystara. And I
Yeah.
am among that number. I know some thanks to you and your channel. And you have a very like I mean, you have 100 videos, more than 100. I actually think
About
the 100th
500.
one is the deep dive of like why you should care about Mystara. But like,
Yeah.
give me the elevator pitch. Why Mystara?
Okay.
Why is that where your heart lives?
Well, the you want the truth or a more interesting lie?
Uh,
Uh,
both,
okay.
both.
The truth
But
is
don't
it
tell
was
me
on
which one's
sale.
which.
Okay. The truth When I was getting into D&D way back when, it was on sale at KB Toys when I was in vacation at Corpus Christi. So I walked in, saw all these things that I could buy all these books for like $1 or $2, and I had like, 20 bucks on me. So I came out with a bunch of gazetteers and modules, and there's Mystara.
You always
You
remember your first.
Hmm?
You always remember your first. And KB
Yes.
Toys, man. Ooh, taking me back. I would, yeah, I wish that was still a thing.
Yeah, I wish you could buy models for $1 for a thing too.
Oh, that
Uh,
too.
Okay. The reason why you want to play in Mystara is because, unlike other settings, there's two main reasons. One is based on real world cultures. So if you want to play Braveheart, if you want to play King Arthur, if you want to play um, what was it, Miramito Musashi, if you want to be Genghis Khan, they have places that you can play that type of game, and it's all a mishmash. But it takes a lot less explaining. It's like, well, here's everything here, and it's like, let me explain to you this background, and it's like, and here's what the elves are like, and here's like and here's what the human cultures are like, and it's like, what do you want to be? I want to be French. Okay, you're from Aviron. Okay. He's like, do you want to be a Viking? We've got 3 Viking lands. So it's a really easy game to pitch to new players because they're already familiar with the types of characters they can play. The other thing is it was done uniquely from every other setting where, okay, you wanted to play Greyhawk, you had to buy the Greyhawk box set. You wanted to play Forgotten Realms, you had to buy the Forgotten Realms box set. Mystara released all of its nation books one after another in, I think, 14 months, just one a month, and they're between 64 to 96 pages. So you got these tremendously in-depth books on every single nation that they wanted to showcase in a very short amount of time. And so they flooded you with information. So if you wanted to play that nation as a microcosm, you could. But if you wanted to like intermix, then that was just as easy. So it was a lot of information in a very short amount of time, playing cultures and fighting types and classes that you're already familiar with. So, it has its hits or misses. Not all of them are great, but you ended up with some of the most iconic characters, locations. Everybody, it doesn't take much to get people into the setting, and then it got weird.
The Mystara got weird or the world got weird? Or both?
Well, Mystara got weird with TSR hit its silly phase.
Well, because I mean, Mystara is like peak / like past peak TS. This is when TSR is like, we're gonna make a million settings,
Yeah,
and now fracture our fan base, and that's not a great.
it was
model.
Actually the best-selling fan base of its time.
Yeah, interesting.
It was the only one they translated into other languages.
That makes so much sense to me. That makes, I mean, that I see that instantly.
So,
and it's funny. It's a different. Well, I mean, we'll finish your thought because mine is deep tangent.
Record of Lotus Wars was based on Mystara, so it was translated into Japan. The Italians, it's been translated in German, French, Italian, Hebrew. So outside, it's one of the most popular settings outside the U.S. because for decades it was the only one you could get. And then when I guess towards the late 80s, they went into their silly phase where they just like Castle Greyhawk with that weirdness. They let Jim Holloway draw everything. That's when you end up where like pop culture references in every book. They decided to add the Hollow World, which was lots and lots of Jules Verne / Conan and stuff like that. Then they got weirder when they introduced the Red Steel, when they decided to turn it to second edition, when they were starting to kill off the lines. And that was the one where basically everybody was playing a superpowered mutant cowboy. And the later ones didn't always work. And this was right after the Purge of Gary, so the setting really kind of petered off. But as far as books go, I think it's the second most published outside of Forgotten Realms. It's got over 100 titles.
And it makes sense to me that it has such like an international, cross-cultural appeal because people want to recognize themselves in the game as much as like I want to lose myself in fantasy and do something entirely different. Like I want fantasy Texas. I want fantasy New
Yeah.
York. Like I know the language, I know the tropes, I know the culture, and like I can do so much more than like here's the generic tavern with like what's on the menu? Ale, mutton.
Yeah.
Mutton's a thing, right? It's just like no,
Yeah.
it's a bagel with a schmear. Or it's a fucking, we're serving up barbecue in the back because that's what the dwarves eat. It's too spicy to eat. If you're not immune to poison, you maybe don't want to touch it. But like, this is what's up here.
And so, yeah, so you go to when it was translated into Italian, you wanted to play in Italian, you want to play Rome, that's Thyatis. If you want to play Florency in Italy, that's Corinth. And
And I
so it has a huge draw. It's much more popular than Wizards gives it credit for, especially over in Europe and Asia. Plus, the Capcom games helped immensely.
I, oh, interesting. I think they're gun shy for good reasons. They've made some stupid mistakes, and like everybody's, I mean, the whole culture is ready to be offended by everything. I am a fairly progressive lefty. If you watch me, you know that. But like, I do
Yeah,
think there's some overreactions happening some
yeah,
of the time, and I think there's someone in Hasbro whose job it is to like keep their company from getting into trouble. They're not very good at their job. I bet they've been replaced recently. But like this is fantasy Mongolia. Awesome. Someone's like, this, we can't do that. We're going to upset the Mongolians, or someone's going to get upset on behalf of the Mongolians. So, like, there's no way we can have a Genghis Khan. So, we can only have a cartoony, funhouse mirror version of Genghis Khan that loses all the flavor.
yeah.
Where,
And when I was rewriting, I rewrote the book. Um, I rewrote Mistar for fifth edition because fifth edition captures the Capcom beat 'em up games with a Shadow of Mistara and Tower of Doom and stuff like that. And I had to get help. So I don't speak Maori. So I asked a friend of mine's husband who is from New Zealand, and he gave me all of he gave me all of the translations, and I hope none of them mean penis. Because
you probably snuck a penis in there.
yeah, I gave him all the words I needed translated, and he gave me all the translations back. I just cut and paste, and it's like, are these accurate translations? Oh yeah. None of them mean penis. Probably not.
Having interacted with several New Zealanders recently,
Yeah,
they slid a dick in there.
yeah. And so the art was we had and just to give you an example when people get offended for other people, we have the TOA Makai, which is a fighter subclass, and it's a Maori warrior. It's if you want to play a Maori warrior, you're playing a TOA Makai, and the image is I don't want to say tasteful, but it is a naked woman in a pose where you can't really see much, but she is Brock Samson naked. She's
Mm.
not trying to be sexy naked.
Hmm.
She is there to move like an animal, to feel the kill, to all of that. And people were complaining because her tattoos were incorrect. And it's just like, well, you got to change that because she's got the cheek, and she's only supposed to have it here. And I talked to Jack, who is my awesomeness editor, and he's like, "Do you have a Maori in your book?" Yes. All right, screw
Yeah,
him.
it's a minefield. It's a minefield, and I don't
Yeah.
blame them, and I don't envy your position because
Oh,
you're gonna have
everybody I
someone upset
talked
that
to,
you didn't do yeah, you didn't do it right, whatever you do.
yeah, everybody I talked to from those cultures that helped me just wanted to see the cultures done. They said, if you take artistic license, we know it's a fantasy game,
And
and
that's
it's
that's that's the rub. It's not like okay, if you were making a motion a blockbuster movie, right? If you were
yeah,
profiting and making billions of dollars off it, like okay, maybe we could talk about like culture appropriate, but like I don't want to assume your financial situation, but I imagine you didn't make a ton of money off of this passion project, and you were talking to Maori to
I
make sure
made
you had a decent representation, and it's still gonna upset some people.
I put in that book, I put a few $1,000s into it, almost all art, and wasn't allowed to sell it.
Hmm.
So all I was able to do was basically put it out there for anybody to take it to Lulu, get it published that way. And if you threw me a couple of extra bucks, I'd be happy. And I made enough to have to report it on my taxes for a good amount.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, because people wanted it. It was free money. If I
I
had put this on the
People want
DMs,
settings. People like sending books.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm people. I like setting books.
I think, okay, just to give you an idea how much it went over, because granted, I didn't, get paid for every single book they got, but you had to put the spine up to download separately to get printed for a POD.
Mm-hmm.
And the spine was downloaded about 40,000 times, just that PDF of the spine. And the only reason why you would download the spine is to print the book. It has no purpose whatsoever. So Lulu got the money for 40,000 of those books. And those books were about $40 each.
Yeah, that's substantial. That's substantial. I mean, and that's, I don't know off the top of my head, but that's, I would say, maybe less than half to be like generous of like people who are actually printing the thing versus using it as a PDF, right? The only reason you're doing the cover because you're literally physically going through the process of having it printed for yourself.
Yeah. And then the Italians took it and said, well, can we fix it? We found a few problems. And so we found one major problem. It's like, sure. Sent them the file to fix it. They sent it back in Italian and said, no, it's perfect. They literally translated the
Oh, that's
book.
good. You got me. The Italians got me. That's good.
So yeah, there is a demand for it. And if that had been on the DM's Guild, it probably would have sold twice as much as a PDF or a POD. But no Mystara, no Dark Sun, no Birthright. No Greyhawk until soon.
Well, I think it's going to be in the DMG. I think that might be where we're going, which I don't have strong feelings about Greyhawk, but I like variety. I like give me options, give me choices. We've been in Forgotten Realms for 10 years, longer.
We've been in the Sword Coast for 10 years. They had their perfect moment to release Greyhawk. And that was when Game of Thrones was good.
Oh God, yes.
Because that's Greyhawk. That is, you're in the mud, you're low school, you're trekking from one place to another. The kings and queens are causing all sorts of ruckus, and it's your job to, like clean up the orcs, to clean up all the undead. And, it's very down to earth, it's very brutal, it's primal. And that's when they could have released Greyhawk, because that was the height of that kind of fantasy.
Yeah, and it's cyclical, but that's my vibe, man. Like I like in fifth edition, I like levels 1. I started 1. I like the early stuff. I have some old school tendencies. By the time we're superheroes playing the Avengers, it's a different vibe. It's fun for a little bit, and then the game breaks down. But like
fifth edition's problem is they front loaded most of the classes.
Yeah, well,
The reason why it's hard to do high level is because you've already gotten everything you're going to get at 10th level.
Well, it's a 10, maybe it's a 14 level game that they're pretending is a 20 level game, which is okay, whatever.
That was the problem with Beckme. Went for 36 levels when it should have gone for 20.
Yeah. And at least they were like separated. They pretended there was games structure,
basic
support.
And see, fifth edition has it's like, I look at every edition and I see, I can see the strengths of each. Fifth edition is, if you're going to play the Capcom beat 'em ups, where it's just like, okay, we're marching down, here come the bad guys, let's fight them. And it's like, okay, we do all this neat stuff, and then we go through the dungeon level, then we go find the merchant that's out, in the middle of a swamp for some reason. We restock, we heal up, we gain levels, then we go to the next group, and the monsters jump at us and we fight them, and it's like, ooh, get the little monsters out, and then go to the next one. That's fifth edition. If you like the Capcom beat 'em ups, fifth edition is the best one to recreate that kind of adventure.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. Everybody's got their different type of fun.
That's it.
If you like Thunder Rift, that series, which was pretty much just dungeon crawling, fourth edition was the best for that kind. Third edition, third edition is if you love math. Hey, how many numbers this game got? Can I add more? Second edition was a cleaned up first edition. First edition was a simulator where you had to keep track of everything.
Right.
Second edition was a little bit better with the didn't do as well with all of the charts. But if you didn't want to keep track of everything, you played second edition. And then Beckme was just, hey, let's just play. And everybody had their own little specialties, and you needed a well-rounded party. So every adventure type has a edition that serves it best.
Yeah, I love that perspective. There's so and like we're about to launch a new edition, more kind of, but like there's a lot of folks being like, my preference is the right way to do everything. It's like, bro, we're playing a game. Like, if someone's
Yeah,
having a different flavor of fun than you, like, you go to
yeah.
the fucking ice cream shop and yell at the people that are getting vanilla chocolate because you like mint chocolate chip. Like, what's your deal, man? And where are you
Yes.
coming from?
You're gonna do that, yell at them in German, so it's terrifying and confusing at the same time.
It's yes, my German friends out there know. They're not from that side of Germany, but like, yeah, it's a different, at least over here in the States, it's a different feeling. You can,
Yeah, growing up in Texas, I learned equal parts German and Spanish.
oh, interesting. Big German contingency down where you are?
Yeah, well, we take pride for the longest. We took pride in our Hill Germans because there's a section of Texas that they speak German
I didn't
and
know
they're
that.
trying
I
to
mean,
save the land.
Texas is huge. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not from the United States, if you're from Europe, know that the United States is each state is a country. If you're from a
Yeah,
different perspective, Texas is its own, and like Texas is one of the big ones. Like
yeah,
we drove through Texas for 3 weeks. We like East Texas is different than West Texas, and the border
pretty
towns are
much.
different. It's like there's a lot going on. It's not a
And
place.
there you have pockets in Texas where in Fredericksburg they sprechen sie Deutsch.
Hmm.
In Flatonia, there's people that still speak Czech.
Hmm.
You've got French speakers out, near Cajun country out in East Texas. It's majority Spanish and Vietnamese in the cities, but there are pockets of other languages. And they've been trying to save Hill German for a while. And actually, the Germans are doing their best to save the language now, the actual Germans, because it's a language that's basically archaic German. But when the Germans got here, they had no word for armadillo. So,
I love that. I mean, I could talk about linguistics all day. Like I love that shit. And like this is the kind of like minutia world building that like this is the reason people become dungeon masters. It's like
yeah.
here's a little pocket of a culture from this culture that has these pieces of this culture. And
Oh,
like
I can talk your ear off on how to properly implement languages into a D&D game to make it for total immersion.
that's great. Like three slang words. You don't have to go Tolkien. You don't have to invent three versions of Elvish script and Dwarven root. Like just get a couple weird, like the locals call it something different than what it says on the map. Right?
Oh,
Like
we
just
came up with
little details like that is all
we
you
came
need
up
to
with
make
gnomish
it.
profanities.
Say it.
Gnomish profanities.
Oh, yes, there's that too.
Grisful.
Um,
The person whose sudden and violent death comes as a surprise to no one.
I've had a few of those. Do
Yeah.
me a favor, roll a d20 because I could talk about Germans in Texas. All and
Ja,
we
ja, ich bin
may.
ein der schlechte Hund. 14.
14. I think this is the one that everybody rolls. This is yeah. What is your take on the sandbox versus railroad spectrum?
I just did a video on that.
Did you know? Links below.
Yes, I broke down the 10 major adventure types. Um,
Mm,
yeah, railroads can be useful, especially if you pace them correctly. The trick to railroads is the pacing. Sandboxes, you usually, on the other hand, to keep it interesting, you usually have to fudge locations because you need people to encounter things. So if you go east, eventually you're going to hit encounter A. Um, like I don't want to say a false choice is a major part of the sandbox, but if you're going to get for maximum enjoyment to keep the plot along, that's the best way to do it. Railroads, you usually want to let them know that like you have to keep going in a straight line for a reason. And geographic things like you're on a river.
mm.
Like the Odyssey is a railroad. Odysseus had no choice in which way he was going. So he was going to encounter all these islands in the order that he encountered them in.
And top down, it sure looks like a sandbox. There's a
Yeah,
lot of little things, but there's gods pulling the strings.
yeah. So you can have a sandbox, especially, I mean, if you're going to do a sandbox in its truest form, it's a lot of work because you need to work out all the little details. But you can steal like adventures from all the different from other books, so that if you go to X, I pull out this adventure. If you go to Y, I pull out this adventure. They both have their merits, they both have their flaws. Done right, a railroad is a white knuckle thrill ride.
The
Done
roller
wrong,
coaster.
you're just like, but I want to go left. Okay, you can't go left. You're on a boat. If you go too far to the left or too far to the right, something bad happens. And then sandboxes is like, okay, you go to the halfling village. Nothing happens. Congratulations, you're in rural Sweden. Hi, is there any crime happening? No. Like we're a small village, we're a small peaceful village of 100 people. It's like we have, we haven't had a violent crime in over 50 years.
Well,
Oh,
don't
so
worry, the murder hobos just showed up. We'll make some
yeah.
crime.
So yeah, you've got uh, I've seen good examples of both, and I've seen bad examples of both. One of my favorite modules, Night's Dark Terror, which is probably one of the best modules, if not the best module ever written by TSR, is a really bit of a railroad because you're either being chased by the bad guys or you're chasing the bad guys. So you have to keep going in a straight line. Then you've got like sandboxes. Isle of Dread is considered the best sandbox ever because no matter which way you go, there's going to be something there. But then you have Quagmire, which is also a sandbox, and it's terrible because there's barely anything in the module. They expected you to fill out the rest of it. You have to put work into a sandbox. You just can't go roll on charts.
Yeah, sandbox is way more work, and I fill up a sandbox with either pre-published stuff or I get, like, I've been running Dolmenwood. I get a big old sandbox and like I want to remove stuff. I want to give me a million things, and we're gonna find the most interesting 100, and then the players are going to respond to 10 of those things that they're the most interested in. But the players have to know that they're driving because someone has to drive. Like in my experience, a sandbox, the players have to make adventure happen, or if they have to leave the gnome village if there's no adventure there and keep.
Isle of Dread ends when the players are done with the Isle of Dread. The Rime of the Frost Maiden, the fifth, a recent example. I thought the actual adventure was terrible, but we were able to make a decent sandbox out of all the encounters from the first chapter, and that way they didn't have to because it was kind of a railroad otherwise. And it was just like, okay, do we go fight the dragon that's way above our level, or do we go fight the dark the 50 Shades of Grey dwarves over here to to level up? But by the time we get back, the dragon's leveled all the towns.
Yeah, there is that,
Yeah,
it's a different. It's not built for 5th edition, really. Like
No.
that 10 town stuff is fun. Like that was kind of my favorite part.
Except for the first adventure where you're fighting a guy that's going to TPK the party. It's like, oh yes, it's not for the first level party. It's for all this. Then why is it literally the first encounter you gave us?
Yeah, they don't. Whatever. We can talk about their ills all night. Give me another D20. Good answer. I like
15.
15. Moving on up. Is that the are you using the counter die from Magic the Gathering? You said you weren't going to do it, but
using this lovely Chess X black and white simplistic $1.15 at Nan's Books and Comics. It generates numbers between 1 to 5 or 1 to 20 in a 5% increments. It is perfect for your dice rolling needs.
We are not sponsored by Chess.
I got to give a shout out to Nan's. They just lost one of their classic guys, so he was. Yeah, you got to admire Brian Taylor when he decided to recreate scenes of went down to Tranquility Park and recreated a battle from World War II using men dressed as Santa.
Bold choice.
Yes.
Was it a particular battle? Was it like a real?
I don't remember which one it was. I just remember it was a bunch of Santas charging at each other with rifles.
I would leave that park.
Yeah.
I feel like this actually might be a challenging question for you.
Yes.
Name a moment that would be on your TTRPG highlight reel.
It would be a challenge for which. Oh my god!
Not because you don't have one, because yeah.
Hold on just a
You have to
second. Let me
choose.
roll my 2,600 D10.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Hey Siri, give me a number for
1,062 or 1620. 1,620. Let me see. The trick to the list is everything is like it's the lack of context that makes it funny. Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking about making a t-shirt with just I love how it's like suspicious comments on this. It's like I don't even look at this anymore.
I feel
Actually,
like you got to be at a point where like you're surprising yourself now. Like there's things on this list that you
yeah,
remember probably, but
there's
like
a
don't
reason why I
remember are
wrote
on
them
there
all
until you
down.
confront them.
I will not use the druid chakram to play frisbee with his dire wolf. Yeah, we have. I think that was Pathfinder. Uh, Playing a rogue, and then we had the druid that was like very heavily based on Xena. It's like I've got a chakram, but I've got my pet wolfie here, and we're like every time he's like, so every time he was like, uh, that's a boring one because that's just me, like jacking with a character. It's boring. I mean, it's funny, but it's just like
Yeah, but
it's
that's good if you got the right people at the table. Like
yeah,
if my character can give your character shit, your character was giving my character shit. You decided, I
yeah,
don't know if like dwarves canonically in your brain hate halflings, but you're like,
yeah,
this guy hates halflings. And I was the
yeah.
halfling, and I was just like, all right, awesome. Like this is
I
great.
know, but for
Like,
for everything we've done, it's especially because like one later is a lot funny. The problem with that one is it's chuckle worthy.
right,
It's like
yeah, yeah.
people chuckle, and they're
Which is
like,
like, I don't know, that's the name. I mean, it's part of the game, right? It's not
yeah, but
we're
it's
not
like,
it's not we can do more than that, but like
but then it's like a feud later, it's talking about my cyberpunk character where we were playing a mercenary campaign, and my job was to go through as the point man for this mercenary, record the battle, and then report it later. And if we were doing an infiltration where there wasn't a lot of combat, I didn't have a lot to do. So my character got bored, and I had to come up with ideas to keep myself entertained. And most of the list is me trying to keep myself entertained when my character is a poor fit for the actual adventure.
hmm.
So, we're getting into the elevator and we start singing the girl from Ipanema as we're going up to raid the corporate stuff. Or we get on there and I'm like, like I'm going through all of the phones. Everybody else is like, we got to hack the computer to get all the information. We got to do this. What are you doing? It's like, I'm going to every single phone and cranking the volume up to maximum and then hanging it back up and just like doing this to everyone on there. Or is it okay? And then I'm going to go into everybody's computer. Have we downloaded everything yet? It's like we're still working on it. Oh my god, the Netrunner. Okay, so it's Netrunner time in Cyberpunk. Okay, so everybody else is going to the fridge. Yeah. Okay, so what are you doing now? It's like I'm going to try to log into everyone's computer, but I'm going to like keep putting in the same wrong password every single time, so it locks me out. So when everybody gets in their morning, their phones are set to maximum, their keyboards are locked, all their computers are locked out, and I've ordered 1,500 pizzas to be delivered the next morning.
Yeah, I let players make your own
Yeah.
fun. Like this is the key.
Yeah, and then eventually the DM was like, okay, we got to get back to the adventure. And like, so everybody else come back in. So Peterson, stop betting or playing Will It Bounce with the office furniture out the window.
we're trying to be stealthy here.
I was like, and then you got to think outside the box. And a lot of the adventures, I mean, we were playing Merc 2000, another great example of when I was proud of my ideas. Is like we were supposed to be going into this, taking out this building, and it was like it was a secret crossover with Dark Conspiracy, which is like their X-Files Dark Future game for GDW. It's not a well-known game. But the monsters there were like these brains in a jar, and they were psychic and they could predict the future. So no matter what we did, we couldn't get to the 20th floor because they had something to stop us. So we were like, how do we get rid of the orders were to take out the guys on the 20th floor. So we put the charges on all the supports on the 19th floor and blow those.
Mm.
Then just take the whole 20th floor and take it off the building. Yeah. DM wasn't expecting that.
I am never. Sometimes I'm just sometimes a part of me is dismayed when I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm responsible for what happens now, and I have like file not found. Okay, that's at some level of stress, but like I love that's when you're playing the game. If you're running the game, now I'm playing like now.
No matter how we try to get up to the next floor, because we have to get to the top floor. Every time we try to get to the top floor, they've got people waiting for us, and they know what we're doing at all possible times.
So I can't think about what I'm going to do next, and now you've made me into a chaos gremlin. Like that's the only answer to this.
So what do? We blow off, we blow all the supports. We blow the support pillars on one side of the bottom of the floor below it, so the building suddenly just tilts and everybody slides off 20 stories down.
Perfect. Yeah, you can burn this world down, and I will make another one.
Yeah,
that is now angry at you for burning the world down. Like there's always more content.
They had me. I had these back in the I guess 80s, 90s. Everybody was so obsessed with Tomb of Horrors, and I hate it. I hate that module. I hate that module with a passion. So one guy was going to surprise us with it. I knew he was going to surprise us with it because he'd been talking about how he got it, and he's like he was going to see how many characters he could kill with it. I don't play characters to watch them die needlessly through some unlabeled trap that's not even a save or die. It's just a die or die.
Mm-hmm.
So I memorized the module and beat it in 15 minutes.
That I don't condone, ladies and gentlemen at home, but
there's exceptions. Yeah, but watching him is like, okay, we go this way, go down, we go into the pit. Okay, we lower ourselves to avoid the spikes. So we find the secret door in the pit. We go down 30 feet, avoiding the pit trap there. Go down, take the 30 feet down there. We go, we go into the room with the pillars. We don't touch anything. We grab the crown, we grab the scepter. We touch it in the right way. And then we get the, you get to the siren. She got the two bags. She got the bag of holding and the bag of little free her. And we take the bag of holding. Sorry, honey, but we got to go. And then she disappears forever. And we get to the Demi Lich, and he's just like, okay, we got one round where he doesn't do anything. So you get one free attack on him. So what do? It's like, okay, take the bag of holding. I shove the bag of holding over the Demi Lich, hold up the bag, and cut the bag. Now he's the Gith Yankees problem. What about all the churches? We don't touch a single piece because it's all cursed.
You won me over with the tagline at the end. That's now he's the Gith Yankees problem.
I hate that module.
To the Astral Sea. I mean, yeah, it's notorious. I think it's created a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths because it's like the epitome of like the dungeon master's excited to run a meat grinder. I mean, once in a while, maybe as a player, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll throw, but like it gets old pretty quick. And I run a deadly game. I'm willing to like have my character die for epic story reasons or stupid reasons, but
Keep on the Borderland is a meat grinder, but it's because you have a lot of combat and you're not going to be experienced if you're going to be playing. Normally, you're not experienced playing Keep on the Borderland, so you're going to be making tactical mistakes.
Right.
Okay. Castle Amber is a meat grinder because it is a press your luck module. If you don't engage in all the randomness and I mean, you got the stuff that gives you powers, and if you fail to save, you die. So that's the whole thing is which one do I do? Do I do that? It's like, but it's the party's choice to try to see if they can get something out of it, or else they all die. Castle or Tomb of Horrors, you touch the wrong thing, you die. You touch the tapestries, they turn into green slime, you die. You walk through this door, or you walk through this door that has no label, you have no idea what it's there, and you walk through it and you die. There's no warning, there's no nothing. Rahazia has like these portals. If these passageways, if you walk through them, you turn into these statues. You turn into like gold statues, no save. But you're passing all these gold statues of adventurers on your way to this portal. So, and the portal is like glowing. It's like, this is being telegraphed. Do not go this way.
And that's the difference between good and bad adventure design.
Yeah.
Or one of the key features of like telegraph danger. Give players an option, give players a choice, give them agency. Yeah. And if he dies, he dies. Like that's my vibe.
Keep on the Borderlands, you win through attrition. because you have very few hit points. You're fighting a lot of orcs and a lot of goblins, but once you learn how to fight them, they're not as hard as they can be, but you're making a lot of rookie mistakes.
Mm.
But then the problem with Tomb of Horrors is, as it goes on later, because I think it's been reprinted in every single edition in some way or another. In 5th edition, it's almost toothless because you can spot all the traps if you have a rogue that's even slightly devoted to finding traps. You take the observant feat, you'll find, like, if you take the observant feat and get a decent wisdom, you can spot every trap below impossible instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's also, yeah, that's not fun either. Like, I
no,
mean, maybe that's someone else's fun, but that's
if
not
it's
fun
too,
for
yeah,
me.
if it's too easy, we're no threat, no thrill.
Yes. Yeah, no stakes. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
if it's not, I don't know. Yeah, and like season to taste, everyone's got their own style. And I think as you gain experience, you want more challenge too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
I mean,
Um,
there is something to be said for competency porn, where you get good enough that you want your players to like mow through mooks for, just to feel great for a while, but you got to use that sparingly, because you want to let them show off on occasion, but you don't want to, just keep throwing mooks at them that aren't going to challenge them.
the shine goes off pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all, and when it's earned or exceptional, that's the variety. It's again, what you were saying
Yeah.
about the railroads, it's or the
And
sandbox, it's pacing,
if
it's
you let them have,
variety of encounters.
yeah, if you let them have an easy encounter and that reflects later, that's a good way to do it. You've played Dragon Age Origins, right? Have you ever played Dragon
Oh,
Age
you're asking me?
Origins?
No.
Oh, okay. There's this fight. You go into the Dwarven city. You fight if you go after the Dwarven cartel, the criminal thing, and you fight a bunch of them. Later, you come across another encounter where you've got a bunch of more dwarf guys, and they're tougher thugs. And the character is like, he's like, all right, you're gonna get out. The doors are threatening you. It's like, do you want to, or we're gonna do this if you don't leave. And it's like, and the character goes, do you really want a piece of me? And if you've defeated all the other mooks and minions, the dwarf like puffs up his chest, gets right into it, no, and then leaves. You have a payoff later.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to, you don't want to just let them, plow through mooks the entire time. But you also don't want to do like some modules or adventures where you take the knoll and you want to make him a high level knoll. So all we're going to do is give him 100 hit points. He's still a knoll,
Mm-hmm.
but now you have to hit him 10 more times. And that's not
He's
that.
hitting you with a club,
Yeah,
but he won't
you haven't
die.
changed anything other than how many times I have to hit him. And that's another problem with high level play is you actually have to threaten them rather than just, what are you doing? Hoping their back gives out?
Well, actually, I'm hoping that you get tired of combat because it takes 4 hours. You take your dice and go home, and we start again at level 1. Then maybe that's just me. Speaking of dice, roll a d20. Let's get another question on the table here.
7. Lucky number 7.
Table.
Does the shooter fill, Bucky? Yes, I do.
Other sources of inspiration for tabletop role-playing games. You've named a few already.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's immense history, theater, film, books, personal experiences, the Darwin Awards.
Good answer. Good
Yeah,
answer. I have not mind the Darwin Awards, but like,
yeah,
I like that. I'm writing that
yeah.
down.
Yeah. And like, you know, uh, you take random things and like throw it at the party. It's like, go through old magazines and change and grab some of the obscure stuff. People will remember the odd, weird monsters if you can throw it at them. Now we had one DM that decided to do an entire campaign. It was almost pretty much theater of the absurd.
Hmm.
And it was absolutely, it wasn't a campaign for everybody, but we had fun. Like I'm playing a Kirkpa, a squirrel, a talking squirrel, and he was from the Bronx. His name was Carl, and he had a pack a day habit,
That's
And he
nothing.
was the least weird of all the characters. And we had Sir Real, the chaotic neutral or paladin, that every time you looked at it, he was someone else. Lady Longbow, the overzealous, who was our dainty elven noble princess, who also happened to be a berserker, and we had to pull her off of corpses, as she would, like, she would defile things. And it's like, so that was all of her inspirations. Just play something different. A cleric of accountancy, a corporate barbarian, a water wizard named Evan Rude. And we were after the greatest treasure of all time. And then we get to the trunk, which is supposed to, or the chest that has the greatest treasure of all time. And we open it up and it's a scroll, and we take the sacred knowledge, and the guy starts reading it. It's like, 1 part hops, 1 part barley, add like ferment for this. It's like, this is the recipe for beer. Yeah, it's the greatest thing ever. You
The
did
meme
listen,
scroll
you did a
through the scroll.
6-month campaign for a
Oof.
punchline. Yeah. Okay. Stupid campaign, but we remember the end.
That's the so many campaigns don't end.
Yeah.
Stick the landing, even if you stick it with a pun.
Yeah, and
you get a couple points off. You get a couple of points off for a deduction because you took a step. Still,
we basically beat the DM to death with our hats. But I mean, we ended up with like the faithful elven sidekick Pronto, that I was carrying me around while I walked on his shoulder, and every time I did something that the DM thought was dumb, the faithful elven sidekick would die somehow. Step on a landmine, get hit by a freight train because nobody noticed the train tracks coming into the dungeon. We're going into it was a fun campaign, but it was based on like comedy movies. It was like, we're riding up to the Gnomish Town. The Gnomish Town decides to give us a tribute in the form of a 21-gun salute aimed at us. So we're like riding while like things are exploding, and I'm like grabbing the elf, and it's like, you're too slow, and I grab the reins, and I'm like whipping the horse faster and faster, and it's like, they're still shooting at us. Like, I grab the horse, and it's like, you're too slow, and I'm going to pick up the horse and run with it. It's like, you're going to pick up a horse. Yeah, make a strength save. And back then, you like roll a D20 under your strength score. I'm a squirrel. I have a 4, and I like rolled a 2. So everybody's like riding their horses as fast as they can, and here comes this squirrel carrying a horse and rider running faster than they are. Did it break all the rules? Oh yeah. Was it hilarious? Even better.
yeah, man. I mean, there's like, embrace the, like, when you go full gonzo like that, it's just like, we're so freaking close to Warner Brothers already, just like playing rules as written, that like, just take the next step. And then I'm sure, like, after that campaign, I'd imagine I would be like ready for vanilla. Like, give me a palate cleanser now. Like, oh, we got that out of our system. I want to play a human fighter. And
I think after that we played Alien, the RPG, the original one, Alien, Leading Edge. That was not a good decision.
I've been well, and I don't know if it's for everybody, but I think if you get them laughing, like, laughter is closer to crying than you think.
Yes.
Right? Like, in that comedy, you're expressing emotion, you're deep in the thing. Pathos is right there. It's the other side of the coin. It's the other mask in the shadows.
The problem with comedy RPGs, and I have talked about this, is comedy needs a straight man.
Yes.
And normally, if you're doing a comedy RPG, the DM has to play that straight man.
Yes.
And playing a straight man is difficult.
Yes.
That's why in vaudeville, the straight man got paid more than the clown did.
It's tough. And I mean, the players can do it. Like, you can do, like, you can bring a straight man to the like, you can bring the vanilla human fighter to the Gonzo circus where the squirrel's running around with the horse. And like, I love that shit because I'm a DM at heart. I don't know if I would love it for 6 months, but I would love it for a couple sessions, man. Like,
but the issue is if you're playing a comedy, everybody wants to have their own particular joke told.
Yes.
And you have to have somebody react off of these people, because that's where the humor is often at.
It's a group sport, and that's what I mean. Then that's true for all TTRPGs, really. I think it shines in comedy because you're just like trying to get your punchline in.
Yeah.
But like, if you're, I don't care if your characters can hate each other, if you like the other guy's character, you are
Yeah.
deriving so much more enjoyment from the game in the first place.
Yeah.
You're involved when you're not, with your character's not doing stuff. You're still involved in the scene because like you can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
And I've
that's the
done that
best.
many a time. Actually, that's been a problem because I get invited to play games for a lot of people, and everybody sits back and wants me to be funny. And it's like, guys, I got to play off of somebody.
Give me something to work. There's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, there's a lot of DMs who have that experience. The players show up and they're like, "Entertain me." And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm doing less than half because you are. It's 5-1
Yep.
here.
I've had to call a game early because the players were not playing.
Yeah, yeah, I
Especially
believe.
with teenagers from outer space. Everybody wants me to tell them jokes for 4 hours. It's like, you guys have to work with me. Be funny.
Yeah, it's a group. It's a group sport. We're all the roles are arbitrary and
Yeah.
the lines are blurry. Like the dungeon master is not the only person who's in charge of the fun here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, give me a D20. I don't even remember what that question was, but that was a wonderful journey.
Reroll. I've already rolled that one. 8. I seem to be doing
Eight.
sequential today.
All right. What is a piece of advice newer dungeon masters should hear, but rarely, if ever, do?
Don't wet yourself in public.
Go on. Are
Uh,
we speaking from experience or?
um, for adventure, okay, dungeon masters that they hear a lot, but they shouldn't do. They
There's a
shouldn't do that
lot of
often.
like new, I mean, and it's what I talk about half the time. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of new advice for dungeon masters. What are something that like maybe it's a hard truth or it's just like not a popular opinion or something
Oh,
that's not
the
breaking
first
through?
one's easy. You're going to screw up. Roll with it.
Yes.
Um, it's like all the prep work in the world is not going to help you if you forget that the door was on the left and not the right, which completely screws up the map. Because then the players are going to hold you to that. It's like, okay, well, then we have to do that. And it's like, oh, okay, but then magic it. You're going to screw up. Just hand wave it with a wizard did it and keep going. Um, all the prep work in the world is never going to prepare you for what your characters are going to do. Maybe they hyper focus on an NPC, like adjust the game to fit what the characters like. Um, that's a major aspect of it. Is improvisation is 80% of the game. Everything's going to go off the rails. So everybody tells you, all these people say, here's what you're going to do for the prep work. Here's the 15 hours of prep work you're going to have to do. Now, buy this book that, it's like, I have totally not been paid to promote. No, that's a different thing. But like, there's a lot of work.
Nobody, I paid for all of these. No one is paying me to.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yet.
just,
Send me free books,
yeah,
please. But
yeah. That's why I'm trying to get the trying to do my fake commercial for Taco Schnell, the finest Germany's finest Tex-Mex restaurant. But I gotta find a sombrero with a pickle haba spike on top of it first.
dude, I'm Mexican Tex-Mex German fusion. Let's go.
Yeah. Try the Schnitzelritos; they are
Yeah,
delicious. Muy
schnitzel
wunderbar.
tacos. You do it right. I'm here for it. I want a Black Forest churro. Let's
Yeah.
go. I'm here. I'm
So
here for it.
there's a lot of people talking about putting all the prep work into it, but you can reach the point of analysis paralysis.
Hmm.
Um, wing it, steal like a politician. If you want to, if you've got to come up with something, you know, if you have to go off notes, go with what you already know from something else. If you're going to improvise, improvise the previous game that you didn't run with those players. Um, and that's one thing that people go into great detail about, but no adventure survives contact with the players, and no amount of prep work is going to help you if none of the players can roll higher than a 10. And occasionally you just have to scrap the adventure and go somewhere else because they're going to die if you keep going that direction. Let them go back to town, and then for the next day or the next week or two, you run an urban adventure where they recover from running into an ogre that apparently was wearing Superman's underwear because they couldn't hurt it. And that's like I've just seen too many, experts talk about, like sticking to write a plan, stick to it. It's like, no, you can't stick to your plan because your plan's going to go to hell the first time the party does something stupid or has a run of bad luck.
Yeah, I think you prep to improvise. And I think
Yeah.
you have to, I do think, at least for most of us, we have to prep the wrong shit for a while just to figure out what the right shit is. We're gonna prep, if you're built like me, if you have like anxiety about doing it the first time, you're gonna over prepare everything, try to make a perfect thing. Or if you're the opposite, you're gonna throw it all away and wing it, and that's
Yeah.
not also the right answer. But like
Yeah.
figure out what works for you. And it's probably less than you think. And there's a lot of the wrong kind of prep happening, I think. That's why I mean, I don't do much homebrew anymore because I'm running too many games and doing too many other things, but like, I love running this shit because I didn't write it.
Yeah.
This is not precious to me. I will change it in a heartbeat, right? Like, and I'm homebrewing half of the shit anyway because that's what happens at the table.
Are you guys familiar with Robert Louis Stevenson? What about Jack the Ripper? Okay, good.
And there's no wrong answer. Either no, and you're a genius because they think you made it up, or yes, they get the reference and you're a genius.
Yeah.
There's no steal liberally from everybody. It's great.
Yeah. And I do.
But yeah, you have to learn that the hard way. I think you have to learn that the hard way. Even if like if you've never run the game, you've been a player forever, you're watching this and you're thinking like, no, I'm going to run the perfect one shot for my friends and be an excellent dungeon master. Maybe, but like the first time you do a thing, is the worst time you've done it, probably. Unless something goes horribly wrong later, you're going to only get better at the thing
Yeah.
because you're going to figure out your style, your like what you need to have prepared in order to throw away the rest.
Yeah. And if the players are enjoying a particular aspect, run
Yes.
with it.
Yes.
Like you don't have to keep the story going if they're happy just going down one route. You're
They
there to
want
have
to
fun.
buy the tavern and install an espresso machine. Like, I'll
Yeah.
run that shit for a session. Yeah, let's see where this goes. I don't know.
They were doing the Strixhaven. It's just like they're
Hmm.
going to have a baristas like, no, hear me out. Starbucks in Sigil. What? And it's like, welcome to Star Smux. And it's like, how can I help you? It's like, can I have a name? It's like Baron Ivan, Berovovich. And it's like, okay, what can I do for you? I'll have a double espresso with 2 shots of virgin blood filled with the cream of, it's like, like, with the suffering. It's like, best I can do is cinnamon.
Yeah.
Yeah, replace the virgin blood with cinnamon. Okay, here you go.
I like him like turning it like this is not virgin. Like he knows this is 2%.
Yeah, this person has made it to second base.
Yeah, I don't know. Comedy, man. It's right there. And then you hit him with the pathos. You hit him with
Yeah,
prize dog waiting outside
yeah.
the Starbones. Oh, love it. Give me one more D20. Let's take it home.
All right, what do we got? A 10.
A 10. I was expecting 9 because we got a little sequential thing going.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh, okay. What is your favorite house rule or a rule that you've lifted from a different game? So I maybe preface this by like, what's your home game right now? You're running
Oh,
5e
what
or
am I not running?
yeah, but like, all right, what's your Swiss Army knife rule that you take with you as you go game to game?
Well, let me see. Because I review and debut and all these other games, so I pull stuff off of the wall all the time. Like
Yeah.
we were last doing the GI Joe RPG.
Hmm.
Which if you're playing the GI Joe RPG, it's one of those accidental comedy games, especially when the 6 people at your table are all Army veterans.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Those guys bring a different energy. I've been
yes.
at that table. Yeah.
It's like, okay, here, what are your GI Joe specialties? It's like, I want to be the E4 Mafia. What? Yeah, I'm going to be a E4 Mafia specialist, GI Joe. So we were just to give you that kind of the house rule, the original GI Joe game, and they've kind of fixed it slightly. but the rules for the infantry characters, they didn't actually have any infantry characters in the infantry class. You had your options were medic, vehicle operator, or artillery.
Okay. I mean, that's I can see how you get there based on the cartoons.
Yeah,
Is my
but
experience.
they don't have a guy with a rifle.
Yeah. Well, those guys were
Like,
pretty ineffectual, if I remember correctly.
yeah, it's just like, where's Grunt? So we're like looking at all these other things. So, and just to give you an example of the GI Joe thing, it's like the the infantry guy was basically the fighter. Lots of feats, lots of general stuff, customize your character, and it's like all you get all these abilities, none of which apply to healing people, driving tanks, or shooting artillery pieces. So what we did was we took all of the subclasses that could be classified as art as infantry based, and we said, okay, like you have the leader or the officer, and you have these three types of officers. Well, one's the frontline guy. Well, what if you scrub off all the officer abilities and gave the he keeps his subclass abilities, but now he's getting the officer abilities. So we basically mixed and matched a subclass with another class to make it actually work the way it was supposed to,
Mm.
and everybody enjoyed it. A little too much sometimes, but we've done that. I mean, I've done a lot of rules patches for games that needed rules patches. Um, Hell, the Mystara Player's Guide, we're revising it because one of my biggest complaints with fifth edition is there's too much magic. Like
Oh, and yeah.
everybody gets spells. There's like I actually when I did a video on how much magic there was, and it was like there's over 50 races that get cantrips starting. So we're like revising is like so I revised the house rules or the Mystara stuff, and we rewrote all the elves and the gnomes, and we ripped out all their cantrips and gave them non-magical stuff.
Hmm.
Um, because it kind of ruined the theme of the game when everybody can cast spells, especially in a setting where nations give you get social status if you can cast spells. And it's like, well, I'm a fighter, and it's like, okay, well, here, what are the fighter subclasses? I can be a champion, I can be it was like a battle master, or I can be a fighter wizard, a fighter wizard, a fighter wizard, or a fighter wizard, which is technically a fighter psionicist, but it still uses magic rules. So which one do you want to stab the stabby guy? So we rewrote that, and like we restricted all of the fighter magic users to just elves. And it made for wonderful world building. It's like here's you've got the Eldritch Knight, and they're only elves. So everybody else who's never encountered an elf is going to flip out when the fighter pulls out his little sword and starts magic missiling you. What you take out is just as important as what you leave in.
Right. Say that again. Say that again for the people in the cheap seats.
What you leave out is just as important as what you leave in.
Yes, we're in a very maximalist era, and if you have 50 species, you have 0 species.
Yeah.
Like you do, like there's no. I mean, maybe it's my limitation as a dungeon master or a creative mind, but like I can't make these 50 guys feel different. So
Yeah.
you have here's 8 kinds of nomadic strong dudes with the same culture that I'm not going to define very clearly. Okay, they're all the same to me now. Sorry, like
That's what made Dragonlance special. They didn't have drow. They didn't have orcs. They didn't have They didn't have halflings. Their dwarves were different.
Yeah, love it or hate it, that's what it, creativity thrives off of these limitations. When you have everything, it's not the flavor is gone.
Yeah. What do like what do we not have? Why do we not have this? I mean, they didn't have Dragonlance when I started didn't have clerics. Like, oh, we've got the 3 major classes. 3, yeah. And don't get me started on Dark Sun. It's like, yeah, we don't have these races. Oh, they're just not in the race. No, they're dead.
It's it raises questions. It's an interesting. Yeah, there's some probably I don't we can talk about why they didn't bring that one back either, but like, it's interesting.
I can tell you why they didn't bring it back.
Okay, you want to bring that guy to the table? Cool. You want to be a dragon dude? Awesome. The yokels are going to respond to you being the dragon dude, or they're not because nothing matters and everyone has magic, and that's okay. But this does not look like a medieval society.
No.
Now we're in Eberron or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
And they didn't bring back Dark Sun because they can't get the psionic rules right.
Well, I will. I mean, this is um maybe willfully blind optimism, but we're getting 4 psionic subclasses, and I bet I'll be disappointed. But right now, because
I've
again, I
seen
don't get free books, I don't have the new PHB.
no, I've seen somebody let me see a sneak peek, and it's basically you can cast Mind Bolt, which is exactly as Eldritch Blast.
Yes, I mean
So it's just they're just reskinning things.
that's what I expect.
Yeah, you don't get the 200 psychic. Okay, I may be the only person in the world that likes second edition psychic psionic handbook.
I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people don't know about it. I think the people who like it love it. Right? It's like a indie band.
Yeah, but it was even in second edition, it had its haters.
Interesting.
It was a completely different. I don't know if you've ever seen it was a completely different rule set that they were welding on to an existing rule set. So you basically had to learn how to play a different game to play this game. Kind of
Okay.
like Netrunners in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I'm thinking the flavor, not the mechanic side of it. Okay, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So the flavor was fine, but you had like you had to like roll under and you had all these skills and you had to like, you had all the psionic cards you had to deal with. And it was, they welded on a new system that didn't fit well, but I liked it.
Yeah, but it's a different game, which is
Yeah.
cool, and you can tie that into setting. I mean, like Artificer, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't fit every vanilla Dean. It doesn't really make too much sense in Phandalin, right? But
Yeah.
like it makes perfect sense in Eberron.
Yeah.
And I'm down. Let's go until
But
he's until the
does
1812
it,
overture
does it
starts.
fit? Dark Sun isn't going to have artificers.
Right, right.
Mystara has a flying gnomish city with biplanes. Um, like tieflings. Tieflings are, perfect in Sigil. I miss the old tieflings. I miss the planar tieflings, where the only thing they had in common is they had nothing in common. They didn't have they didn't have the demonic vibe. Um, it's like, but you go to Greyhawk where they just beat back a fiendish invasion. Abyssal tieflings are going to get crucified. My favorite tiefling was this lady in Planescape that had someone else's shadow.
Hmm.
So the shadow would move on its own. It had nothing to do, but it was attached to the shopkeep. It was original. She looked completely human, except her shadow moved on its own accord. You have like the Drow. The Drow don't appear of the 7 core settings. The Drow only appear in 4 of them. You don't have them in Birthright. You don't have them in Dark Sun, not Dark. Yeah, you don't have them in Dark Sun. You don't have them in Dragonlance. You don't have them in Mystara. You have Eberron, Faerun, and Greyhawk. And that's fine. You have endemic races which don't really work outside the setting that they're in. The Valley Elves of Greyhawk only work in the Valley of the Mage. If you take them out, you've ripped away their lore.
And it feels like the people who, like a player who has issue with that. Oh, I can't play a drow in this game. This game sucks.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, branch out. I don't, I don't know what to tell you. Try something different once in a while.
Yeah.
You might
I
like
mean,
it.
like I normally don't play, like in settings. I play something, and I get handed an Asimir, and I play him like a frat boy from the 50s, Biff Bottoms, and
I mean, that's the other thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
you can make whatever.
and it was just, and we played it, and he was like I don't know what's the opposite of an edgelord. Like he's like, I'm taking my tiefling to meet the family. We go into the mansion. It's like, Mum's is, Dad's is, Buddy, Sissy, Junior, I'm home. I brought a friend from work. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, oh, I'm like Drakkar Heart Gouger. Like, I'm pleased to meet you. It's like, oh my God. Well, he's like, we made some Celestial Angel food cake. It's your favorite. It's like, lawful, it's all lawful good up in this house. It's like, and then later on, it's like, oh, Drakkar, Mom made you a sweater. It's like, and matching horn warmers.
And what you need, you need to type to go against type, right? Like the only
Yes.
reason that's interesting
Yeah,
is
and
because
then
there's some definition to the thing in the
yeah,
first place.
and the joke pays off later when we go to this frigid thing and he's wearing the sweater and the horn warmers.
I might steal that.
Yeah.
That's in my world
It's like,
now. I don't know
stop
where
trying
it's gonna fit, but someone's knitting those right now.
yeah, it's like he's like sitting, he's like sitting there quoting garbage. I'm only happy when it rains. And it's like, you play against type, but or you play what you're given. 3d6 straight down is a wonderful way to play because you get handed a character that way and you build something out of what you're looking at. It's sort of like when I was in my taking writing in college, and it was like we had a 15-minute drill. You had to write a comprehensive character in 15 minutes and avoid stereotypes that were given to you. It was like, and that's 3d6 straight down. It's like, okay, this sucks, that's good, that sucks, that's good. So I have a weak, dumb guy with a high charisma and a high constitution. Okay, what am I doing? And it's like, okay, so like I can be like, a marginal fighter that, but he knows right from wrong. It's like Mongo just pawn in Game of Life.
And you discover it, right?
Yeah.
You're playing a game now. You're not just
Yeah.
trying to shoehorn your concept.
Yeah,
So that's a very good transition. Check us out next time where we're gonna roll some dice and build characters and build a little bit of world and adventure around those characters. Remind the people at home where they can find Mr. Welch on the internet.
Well, go to YouTube, type in Mr. Welch. I got Welcome to Mystara, and eventually I'll get around to the reviewing Delta Green for the Mad Musings. Cthulhu meets SCP meets X-Files.
That's on my list to play. I actually haven't dove deep because there's a list of a few games like I want to actually be a player, so I don't want to like spoil myself much or at all. But one day I'm gonna read
there
it.
Is a rift between first and second edition because second edition, like Mystara did when it went to second edition, got rid of a lot of the villains. It's like, well, we got rid of the escaped Nazi rocket scientists. Okay, why? Because everybody does escape Nazis. Okay, fair. But what'd you replace them with? Well, we didn't. So you just got rid of villains to get rid of villains. Doesn't that restrict you? Yeah, we realize that now.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good bad guy to drive a story, drive a campaign.
You can always judge a person by the quality of his villain or the quality of his enemy.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna steal that too. All right, thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you at home for spending some time with us. We will be right back. It'll be a couple days for you. It'll be a couple minutes for us, but stay tuned. Bye.